Clinton's presumed 2016 run for the White House is already in debt. It raised more than $11 million in a year, but most of those funds were spent during the 2014 midterm elections. A Federal Election Commission disclosure shows the PAC has less than $900,000 in the bank and still owed on a $1 million loan. The loan was taken out in October. The PAC also spent $1.8 million between September and November, having only raised $900,000 during that same time period. A soldier on leave for the holidays has been told by his wife's landlord that he has overstayed his welcome and cannot visit the apartment his wife lives in with their newborn daughter. Sergeant William Bolt is stationed in Missouri, and his wife is a student at Clemson University in South Carolina. When Bolt came to visit his wife and child, the landlord said he could not stay because it would violate the terms of her lease. Arguing that because Bolt's name is not on the lease, he cannot stay for longer than 7 days, the landlord says he enforces this rule for all tenants and would give no special consideration in this case. The landlord has also allegedly said he would have Bolt arrested or double his wife's rent if he continues to stay at the apartment. A local attorney was shown the lease and said it was vaguely written and the charges would have a hard time standing up in court because the visiting person is a spouse. A UCLA law professor has issued an apology after coming under fire for a Ferguson-related exam question. Professor Robert Goldstein wrote in a question that cited reports Michael Brown's stepfather, Louis Head, yelled, quote, "Burn this expletive down," after the grand jury announcement, and asked students to write a memo giving their advice to a prosecutor on whether or not to seek an indictment against Head. The question was called racially insensitive and divisive, and Goldstein said he will not grade that portion of the exam. A law professor at George Mason University, David Bernstein, said there was no reason to apologize, and that if students are, quote, "such delicate flowers merely being asked to assess whether a certain controversial speech that's been in the news is constitutionally protected, then maybe they should find another profession." And breaking news out of Australia. At least 13 people are being held hostage by at least one gunman at a cafe in Sydney. As of press time, no hostages have been released. Reports indicate there may be multiple gunmen and as many as 40 to 50 people in the cafe. Images from news outlets show two women forced to hold an Islamic flag in the cafe window. While it is not the same as the ISIS flag, the black banner bears a similar resemblance. Traffic has been diverted in Sydney and numerous buildings have been evacuated. This includes the famous Opera House, which was evacuated when, reports say, a man walked in this morning carrying a mystery package. The State Library and Parliamentary Executive Offices have also been evacuated. Law enforcement is working with local authorities to figure out a motive behind the attack and respond to the situation. This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for December 15th.
Welcome back to the show. This is The Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum, rocking quickly through a Monday. Real quick, Mike, I don't know if you saw this. My brother sent it to me over the weekend. Article in the Telegraph. Men who like spicier food are alpha males with higher levels of testosterone. This was a report story that was just done in France. Did you hear about this?
No, but I fit that. At least 2 out of 3 of those.
These results are in line with a lot of research showing a link between testosterone, financial, sexual, and behavioral risk-taking. The research.
So let's back up the bus for just a second. So let's just run through. Spicy food, you can't get it spicy enough for me. What about you?
Well, here's the problem, and this is why my brother sent it to me, is that my number 4 kiddo is very fond of saying that when her papa eats spicy food, the top of his head sweats. So
well, you're bald, dude. I mean, maybe a lot of the tops of heads of guys sweat, but you can't see it because they have hair.
Well, that could be the case, but I know that if I don't like food that like burns my tongue off spicy, but I definitely like really spicy food.
Okay, so let's go here. Okay, I'm sorry, but like we have to establish a baseline. Like Frank's hot sauce or Tabasco, can you handle those?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, I got it.
Yeah, I don't like just fiery. but when it's like when it's with food, like if it's some kind of Indian food or certainly Mexican food, especially if I've got a really high quality tequila with some lime shoved in it. But
Right.
oftentimes, what I'll have to do is I'll have to have a paper towel and I'll literally be patting down the top of my noggin to keep sweat from dripping down into my eyes.
All right. So then, secondly, I don't even need to ask you about the alpha male part, right?
Uh, when it comes to what
No,
is
no,
their
no.
phrase?
Don't. Well, that's the next. That's the next category.
No,
The,
I would have to say that I would firmly come down in the alpha male category, no
like you're
question.
a driver, right?
I am
And
a driver, no
as am
question.
I. All right. Which is interesting that two drivers can do a radio show together and not get irritated at one another, at least outwardly.
Well,
So,
yeah, nobody can see the private messaging thread constantly going back and forth between us.
this is true, and dude, I think we could do pay-per-view on that at some point. And then, of course, the testosterone part, which I think maybe that ought to be on pay-per-view as well. But anyway, back to the article.
Yeah, so it's just very interesting. They did a survey, bunch of people living in France. They measured testosterone levels from saliva samples. They were presented different kinds of food, and then they were invited to add chili sauce to taste. And the guys that it's basically was a self-selection that the guys that put on the highest amount of hot sauce were tested later to have the highest level of testosterone. So it was they just put out bland food and a whole bunch of guys were seasoning it. Then they took a sample of the food that they had seasoned, compared that with the testosterone levels that they exhibited, and that's how they came to the conclusion and the results.
I think that's scientific as hell. Okay, so Jessica, we don't talk to you enough, but let me ask you a question. All right, what is your experience with guys who love hot sauce? Are definitely alpha males, and I do not mean that in a sexual contest. I mean just driving and controlling situations, everything else, and dare I say, high levels of testosterone. Can you just kind of give us just a walk through your past as it relates to that?
Oh, a walk through my past as it relates to that.
No, I'm kidding
No,
you
I'm
there, but
just
I mean,
messing with you.
just what's your thought there as you hear Hausum and I
I don't
butcher this
know.
story?
The thing is that, well, in my culture, like a lot of people have spicy food in general. I mean, for you guys were talking
Right,
about like Frank's hot sauce. That's like nothing to me. Like,
right.
you know. So that's interesting. I was like habaneros. Then we're talking about some actual spice. Like,
I like hotter stuff too, but I just had to establish a baseline.
yeah. But I would. Yeah, I would say I can totally see. Um, the guys, I guess every guy that I've ever dated has definitely liked hot sauce and spicier food. And I can see how people that are not, or guys that aren't into that, I probably didn't date because they usually tend to be more finicky people. I don't know. Let's go that
See, I
way.
didn't think that was going to be your descriptive, but that's good.
Yes.
What do you think? Like, do you like alpha males? Do you like the guy who he's kind of like? I don't mean he dominates you, tells you what to do or whatever, but he's like the decision maker. He's very definitive. He's not wimpy. He's
Totally.
not the old sensitive type in the movies a while back. You like that alpha male kind of guy?
To a certain extent. I mean, if not that they have to be like in charge of everything constantly, but I also don't want to have the, you know, pushover guy either. It's too
Because
much.
that's
It's not
creepy,
fun.
right?
Well, it's just not fun.
Right.
It's like, oh, I have to do make all the decisions because you can't even decide if you want to wear red or blue today. Really? What come on.
See, there you go. And listen, we don't need to go into like high testosterone question. I think we probably got that.
Yeah, I think we can leave that one alone.
All right. Anyway, we need to talk to you more, man.
Totally. We can totally do this.
Oh, I've got from my weekend, by the way, which something we can talk about. I've got two movies that I saw this weekend. Actually, I didn't see the movies. I saw portions of the movies, and then I stopped watching them because they were so bad. So I'm
Wow.
going to make two anti-film recommendations, and maybe perhaps you can weigh in if either of you have seen either of them.
Well, and then I can tell you about two movies that I saw. Well, one movie I saw and one I'm going to see today.
Okay, let's start with you. Go.
All right, I finally saw Gone Girl, and that was amazing. That's like the Ben Affleck movie where his wife goes missing.
I saw my wife and I saw that a week ago.
Right? Wasn't it good?
How's a pick yourself up off the floor, dude? I saw that. Now I not only know what this movie is, I saw it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny and I were talking this weekend about going to see it, and she's like, "Woman gets kidnapped? No, I don't want to see that." So we didn't see it.
Dude, you gotta watch it. It's like there's a lot of twists and turns. Like you think it's gonna be like the Scott Peterson story because that's how the
Okay, but
trailer
no,
makes
don't,
it
don't,
look.
don't. This is what my wife does. And
No, it totally in the trailer they totally go along with that. So I
all
didn't
right,
give
but don't
anything
go too
away.
much further because
No, no, no. I'm
I
not
get
gonna say
so
anything
pissed
else.
off at my wife because she'll convince me to watch something that she's seen, and I damn near. I mean, talk about Scott Peterson. I damn near have to strangle her to get her to shut the hell up because if she blows the movie for me anywhere through it, I'm done. I can't see it. So okay, go ahead.
Well, no, that was it. I was just gonna say there's lots of twists and turns, and it's really interesting.
I thought almost a bit too many at the end.
Yeah, I can see that, but we can't talk about that at all.
No. Yeah, so what's the other one?
I'm gonna see Nightcrawler tonight.
Nightcrawler. This is about fishing in a pond or something.
Um, it's a movie about. It takes place in L.A., I think, and it's Jake Gyllenhaal, and basically he starts filming things to sell them to news outlets or something, but he
Oh
starts
yeah.
beating the
And then they
cops
start
there.
staging them.
Exactly. So that seems super interesting. I haven't seen it yet, so
Howsome,
I don't know
I'm
if it's
2 and
good.
0, brother.
But I'm gonna
Whoa!
see. Yeah.
I've never even heard of this movie.
Oh yeah. You gotta watch the
Yeah.
trailer like right after this show. You gotta watch the trailer. I'm gonna watch that tonight with my cousin because it's like we were like, this looks awesome.
Okay, well, I saw the movies that we started this weekend. The first one was called Tammy with Melissa McCarthy. Have you heard of that?
I got nothing.
I saw that one. That was
Okay,
so
that
weird.
movie sucked. Couldn't handle. We probably got 20 minutes into it. And then the other one was called from last year called Life of Crime with Jennifer Aniston and oh gosh, who was in it? Tim Robbins was in it. We got like 15 minutes into it and it sucked.
I didn't see that. I haven't even heard of that one, but I did see Tammy. Actually, I saw Tammy on the plane on the way back from Europe because that was one of the things that was there. Yeah, it's really terrible and it gets a little bit better, but I actually saw the whole movie. At the end, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But it's a very bland, like mundane movie.
So
Oh my god.
in terms of the movies, then we just talked about 4 movies. I believe Jessica won at 3 and 1, even knowing what the movies were and being able to comment. Howsome, I believe you and I went 2 and 2, but I'm impressed at myself for actually not going 0 and 4.
You know what? I'm impressed at that too. Speaking
Definitely.
of movies, Mike, we should probably talk about this because this article that I did kind of blew up over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're up to probably 90,000 views, something like that. And that is the esteemed social commentator Samuel L. Jackson.
We
Oh,
have
you know
that
what?
clip.
Before we get to that, we got Watson on the line. You want to take that, or do you want to hold
Let's
him
take
on
a quick
for second?
call, but we're gonna have to beat him up and make him be quiet. Or listen. He can be on. Or we love Watson when we play the because we have the Samuel L. Jackson clip, and you put it up and it blew up. Yes, Watson, brother, welcome to the show.
On a plane?
What?
Negroes on a plane?
No, that's not it. And by the way, that was
Oh,
Snakes on a Plane. Although you might talk to Andrew Clavin about that, and he may actually write the screenplay.
that's too funny. I think haven't seen really. Oh, I did see a movie. You guys are speaking about movies. I watched Hercules with Dwayne Johnson the other day, and it was all good up until one point, and I just had to just laugh. But yeah, it was just a joke of a movie. I'm just looking forward to seeing the Hobbit movie this weekend.
There we go. Hey, listen, The Rock now, well, always Dwayne Johnson. That dude is he's a money making machine. But so you're saying let's not see